Hello, Olatunji Shobodu is my name, and you are welcome to Leadership in 30 Minutes. Welcome. Leadership in 30 Minutes comes to you by Emmet Leadership Academy. At Emmet Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth. Today, we'll be speaking on the subject, the cross of leadership. The cross of leadership. I believe many of us, are familiar with the concept of the cross. What we often don't associate the cross with is leadership. It's easy to associate it with all that Jesus did. He went to the cross so that he could save man. He gave himself, he gave his life. And we look at it in the context of the salvation of man. But what we often do not take note of is that Jesus represented many things. One of the most profound dimensions of his life and his walk on earth was the leadership dimension. It is not a coincidence that one of the very first things he did when he started out on his journey was to put together a team of 12 men. And he developed these 12 men into credible leaders and gave them a mandate to go ahead and make disciples of others. So clearly, a cornerstone aspect of his work, of his mandate, was the leadership aspect. The cross represented many things. Going to the cross was very profound, but we must not lose sight of the implications that it has for leadership. And that's what we'll be examining today. I want to thank you once again for joining me today. It's Leadership in 30 Minutes. And what we do here is to examine a dimension of leadership with the focus being to empower ourselves even further, to develop the capacity to provide quality leadership, to develop the capacity to provide quality leadership. So we're focusing on the cross of leadership, the cross of leadership. One of the things that you would find with good leaders is that they embody everything that they demand from their followers. They are not hypocrites. They are authentic, okay, in their conduct. They are authentic in every dimension of their conduct. Now, and by the way, I have a series, a 9-day series on becoming authentic. So if you're interested in that, head on to my YouTube channel. You would find that series there. It will help you. It will give you an insight into the differences between walking your talk and walking the talk. Walking the talk is what you require within the context of your leadership responsibility, not so much walking your talk. And that's usually one of the sources of frustration for leaders. All right. So true leaders embody, they exemplify the demands that they make on their followers. And one of the demands that we see then make is that the follower must be willing, all right, to carry his cross. not to carry the leader's cross, to carry his cross in following the leader. Now, the idea is that leadership, you want to lead, you want to lead right, you want to lead well, you must be ready to carry your cross. You must be ready. You must have the capacity to carry your cross. It's not the leader's cross, it's the cross of leadership. All right. Each man, each woman will carry his or her own cross. As long as you are ready to do leadership the way it's supposed to be done, to provide leadership that truly matters, you must be ready to carry your cross. The leaders do not demand you to carry their cross. They demand you, they prompt you and put you on notice to carry your own cross. For example, when Judas led the people to come and arrest Jesus, and immediately he pointed him out, among the disciples, giving the soldiers that came with him a sign. Peter stepped forward as they were about, to hold or to arrest his master. And he brought out his sword. And in the process, he cut off the ears of one of the servants of the high priest. And well, you would say that was great. He was bold. He was trying to defend his leader. But notice what his leader did. What did Jesus do in that circumstance? Jesus stepped forward, asked him, he rebuked him actually, he scolded him, and told him to put his sword back, all right, and step forward. You are not the one, who is being arrested. I am the one who is being arrested. I will carry my cross. Your time will come for you to carry your cross, all right? And he told him, look, I have the capacity to carry my cross. You think that if I wanted to get out of this situation, I wouldn't have got out. I would have simply called, my father to send me a legion of angels and, it will be all over. But there is a significance. This event is significant. That was something that Peter and co didn't understand. But one of the things that we need to learn from that is that each one will carry his or her cross, and there will be crosses to carry, except you are not ready for the business of leading. If you are ready for the business of leading, if you want to be a true leader, you must be ready and willing to carry your cross, not the leader's cross. Unfortunately, what tends to happen is that some leaders sacrifice their people. Some leaders make their people to carry their own cross in addition to the cross of the people. Those are, you find that with the Pharisees. They wouldn't touch anything, but they heap a lot of burden on other people, including burdens that they ought to carry. So when you are following a hypocrite leader, when you are following a leader who doesn't know his or her onions, when you are following a leader who does not understand what leadership is about, thinking that leadership is about just being in front, just showcasing themselves, seeking accolades and recognition and all of that, just wielding power and titles and all of that. Yeah, that's not what leadership is about. Those kinds of leaders would end up not carrying the cross of leadership, but placing the cross on the following, placing the cross on the following. And that's not how to do leadership. Now, one of the greatest significance, that we need to take note of about Jesus going to the cross is that he went there not because of himself, He went there because of his people. He went there because of you and I. It had nothing to do with him. It had nothing to do with any violation on his part. It was an innocent man who was paying dearly for the shortcomings, the sins, the undoings, the transgressions of others. Does that sound familiar? That's leadership. That's the nature of the cross that leaders carry. And that's not simple to do, because what it's saying is that the leader also, and more often than not, carries burdens that have nothing to do with what he or she has done, carries burdens that ought to have been carried by especially those who follow. And that's not piece of cake to stand in the gap, for somebody else's transgressions, for somebody else's misdemeanors, all right, to step forward, all right, to take responsibility for what subordinates have done, not to push the subordinates forward and sacrifice them. How many of you have served under leaders who are quick to exonerate themselves when there is an issue with their team, and they have no hesitation in pushing forward the member of their teams or members of their teams who actually created that kind of, the problem at hand? That's not what a leader does. The leader must, at such times, all right, it calls for the leader to carry the cross of leadership. The cross of leadership, are typified by burdens that are yours, that you assume, not because you have done anything, but because your people have done something, and you are called to protect them. You are called to preserve them, not to destroy their lives. That's what a leader does. A leader steps forward to protect the people. A leader does not hesitate, however difficult, the situation is. What happened? So that we get a sense of the nature of these kinds of demands on leadership, and why you need capacity to be able to carry it. Otherwise, you can't do it. And if you can't do it, truth be told, you can provide the quality of leadership that is required. You can't provide what I would regard as a vital aspect of the divine blueprint on leadership. One of the things that, the encounters that Jesus had was when he knew that the time was coming, that he was going to the cross. And he thought about all that it would entail, the shame, the reproach, but all of those are even, piece of cake compared with the pain that that experience would entail. Imagine going to the cross, being hung on the cross, with just nails, and nails, in the worst places you can think of, on the hands, on the, legs, and hanging there by just, those four nails. Imagine, pain that, the level of which I believe that no man can bear. All right, no natural man can bear. Okay, and so he stepped aside and went to pray. And that encounter gives us an insight. He had to go and pray, trying based on his human frailties to negotiate his way out of that experience. All right. So he said, look, Father, if this cup, can't this cup pass? Can this cup not pass? He said, but, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. It was like trying to renegotiate the terms of this assignment of leadership. All right. And what we find there, you can't negotiate, you can't renegotiate the terms of leadership. The blueprint, the divine blueprint is already in place. All right. You either fall in line or you stay out of a leadership responsibility. But he understood that it wasn't possible to renegotiate it. That's why he said, nevertheless, all right, let your will be done. What he was saying is that this is tough. I know I have to carry this. This is tough, but I will carry it all the same. Okay. And so at the end of those prayers, 3 times he uttered that. And the response he got was we were told that angels were sent to strengthen him. That also tells us what is required. You need capacity to be able to carry the cross. You need capacity to be able to carry the cross. You need capacity to be able to stand in the gap for to take the burden, to take the pains, to take the backlash for things that you never did. All right? You need capacity. That's why we are talking about this. That's why we are bringing your attention to this. That you have crosses that you will carry as a leader. All right? First of all, you must understand that is part of the calling to lead. Secondly, you must have the right mindset towards it. Thirdly, it's not enough for you to know that, yes, it's not enough for you to be willing to carry the cross. It's more important to have the capacity to carry it. And if you think it's a joke, then you look at what happened to Peter. All right. And that's the kind of thing that happens to some of us in our corporate practice, in our work with some of our leaders. Peter was warned to prepare himself that, look, you are going to be humiliated. All right. The adversary is planning to humiliate you. And Peter said, very soon, unless within 24 hours, you're going to deny me. You will deny that you know me. Okay. And he swore. He said, well, I don't know about others. Don't we often say things like that? I don't know about others, but as for me, there is no way I'm going to, I would even die. I'm ready to die with you. And, you know, and the leader looked at him. Jesus looked at him and said, well, it's okay, but in a couple of hours, you're going to deny that you ever knew me. He said, look, all of you are going to run away. All of you are going to deny me. All right. And they didn't believe. He understood what he was talking about. He was drawing attention to capacity, to capacity. He said to Peter, he said, well, I have prayed for you that your faith will not fail. Someday I will speak about that particular phrase because there is a lot that is contained in that simple sentence. I said, I prayed for you that your faith will not fail. Okay. And of course, you and I know what transpired. Peter denied. He denied 3 times. He denied before, maids, before people who didn't constitute a threat to him. The one who said he was willing and ready to die with his leader, obviously he had overrated himself. He didn't understand. He thought it was just a willingness alone that will get him through. He didn't understand that you need capacity to carry the cross, okay, as a leader. And so the reason that leaders often draw attention to the concept of the cross, it is because in order for you to exhibit the capacity to carry that cross, you must develop the capacity. You must develop the capacity. That's why true leaders focus on helping you to recognize that the journey of leadership, the responsibility of leadership, involves carrying the cross. And they help you to build capacity to carry it so that when you succeed them as a leader, when you become a bona fide leader, you would be a leader indeed, because you would have the capacity, not just the willingness, not just the understanding, to carry the cross of leadership. You would have the capacity. Okay. And they made a couple of statements. I recall, and you would find that in Matthew 16:24, where, and I believe Mark 10, where a man ran to Jesus. Is a, it's a popular, is a favorite encounter of mine because it teaches so many lessons. In fact, I wrote a book based on that encounter titled One Thing You Lack. One Thing You Lack. You may want to, check out that book. If you, the link to my books are given. There's a particular one that would interest you. One Thing You Lack. What was the one thing? I'll talk about that some other time. But let's look at what happened here. This rich man ran to Jesus. He said, "What must I do to, have eternal life?" So he was rich. He needed eternal life, higher quality of life that his money could not buy. And, Jesus told him, "Okay, fine. If you know the rules of life, the commandments, go ahead. All you need is to abide by them." And the man said that, "Oh, if it's that, I have been mindful of them since I was a youth. I have been complying with them," which wasn't quite true, because it's on record that no one had the capacity to comply with the Ten Commandments. No one. And it was the reason, that Jesus himself came. Okay, so that he could demonstrate that, you know, um, yes, only one person could do that, and he was the one that could do that, and he defeated, all right, that contrary power and spirit, and showed that it was possible. That's why he went on to say, in the world you would have tribulations, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Okay, so he said, when the man said that, he said, "Okay." He said, "But you lack one thing. There's one thing you lack." "So what do I lack?" He said, "Go ahead and sell all your possessions and distribute to the poor, and take your cross. All right, and come and follow me." All right, take your cross and come and follow me. All right, so in Matthew 16:24, he said, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. So you see the point there. Take up your cross and follow me. Take up your cross and follow me. So it was basically saying to him, all right, you need to develop this capacity. You need to understand the nature of leadership in order to experience this life, this transformed life, all right, that you so badly want, which money cannot buy, which is far more valuable than money. It's going to involve certain things. You need to deny yourself, to understand that life is not just about you. Go and sell your possessions, distribute to the poor. Oh, wow. Something I've worked for, something that they are not entitled to, something I'm entitled to, which is a reward for my labor. But remember, that's what the master did. Remember that you are also coming to this leader wanting him to give you something that you have not worked for. All right, you want a higher quality of life. You are not fulfilled. What you have worked for, your money cannot secure it. But now you have come to somebody and you want to know what to do. Okay? So we're told that he went away sorrowful. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He opted to hold on to his wealth. He could not sacrifice his wealth for people who truly needed it, who probably didn't need as much as that. He said, sell. He didn't say, and give me. It says, sell your possessions and give it to the poor. All right. Can you see the sacrifice? It said, take up your cross. There's going to be more of such. And follow me. I will teach you how. I would help you build the capacity to carry the cross. But surely the cross is involved. You want to enjoy this higher quality of life, you have to pay a price for it. The price is to carry the burden on behalf of others. It's not a burden on behalf of yourself, it's a burden on behalf of the people you lead. Was he trying to make life difficult for him? No. It was showing him the path to becoming a true leader. Why? What he was asking for, the eternal life that he was asking for, and some of you might feel a bit uncomfortable here, is the stuff of leaders, is accessible through leaders. Yes, in the real sense of it, it is the gift of God, accessible through Christ. But when you look at a reference that Jesus made in John 17 and verses 2 to 4, you would see what eternal life is. You would understand it in the context of leadership. He said, you have given me power, all right, to give eternal life to the people that you have given me. He said that in relation to the members of his team, specifically, all right, the 12 people that were on his team. He said, what is eternal life? He wasn't so spiritual about it. He said, it is to make known who I am and to make known who sent me. That was his description of eternal life. Okay, so that's not piece of cake. Embedded in that, to make known who I am, is to point you to the responsibilities. My makeup, all right, is that I have the capacity to stand in the gap, to shoulder the burden of the people I lead. It has nothing to do with what I have done, but that's what I am called to do. That's what I'm called to do. He said, look, except a grain of wheat or a corn of wheat, whichever you like, falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. He was talking about the sacrifice dimension of leadership. And he was saying in Matthew 10 and verse 38, he said, look, if you are not ready to deny yourself, to take up your cross, to follow me, don't bother. You are not worthy of my leadership. All right. Those are not the kinds of people I want to lead. Why? Because they can't become bona fide leaders. They can't become true leaders. One of the hallmarks of a true leader is a willingness to carry it's not just a willingness, it's also possession of the capacity to carry the cross. And that means to embrace and to take responsibility for the shortcomings, for the weaknesses, for the misdemeanors, for the mistakes and errors of those that you are leading. If you can't do that, forget it. Except a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it will abide alone. It will never be productive. So the leader must be ready to give it all, must be ready. And it takes capacity. Jesus said very instructively, he said, look, there is no greater love than for a man to give his life for his friends. And he had said it to his people, those who were following him. He said, you are no longer servants, you are friends. He said, but there is no greater love I can show you. And leaders must lead with a heart of love than for me to lay my life down for your sakes. That's the cross of leadership. He said, but, and this is very important, he said, I have power to lay it down and I have power to take it up again. Crucial is not just having the understanding that you need to carry the cross like Peter. If that's where you stop, you will be embarrassed, because when the cross shows up and the demand for you to take that responsibility shows up, you would not have the capacity to carry it. You can make light of it, but take my word for it, you don't want to wait until the cross shows up, because it will. And when it does, and you're unable to carry it because you have not built capacity, you would undermine your credibility before the eyes of your people. And you will fail in your leadership work. You will fail in your leadership work. He said, I have power to lay down my life, that I can put myself out there and take the sacrifice. That's why he told Peter, put your sword back. This is not your core. This is my core. And I don't need any follower to take. That's why I said, each one, take your cross, not take my cross. I know my cross. Your own cross will come. And it starts with following. I'm going to be talking about the cross of following next week. All right? It's very important. Very crucial. Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow. If you can't do that, forget it. Forget it. At some point, you see, leadership is not about the paraphernalia. It's not about the privileges. It's not about, yes, some of those things come. But the real substance of leadership is the cross dimension. Is what you do on behalf of your people. That's why when a man ran to Jesus and said, "Sir, I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to follow you everywhere," he responded and told the person, so that the person would be very well aware of what it takes to follow a leader. He said, well, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. The leader has nowhere to lay his head. Let me prepare you for these, as you know, work, that it is not piece of cake. Forget what you see. Let me draw your attention to what you don't see. There's a lot of discomfort that is involved. It's not a life of luxury. Leadership is not a life of luxury. Leadership is not a life of luxury. It's not about where you live. It's not about the cars you are driving. The substance of leadership is the cross that you carry on behalf of your people in order to develop them. There are various dimensions that we can talk about. And there's the aspect of what you do as an example so that you show them and you explain to them. All right. It's part of the reasons why Jesus, at a point, took his, towel and began to wash the feet of the disciples. And he told them, "Do you see what I have done?" That's what leaders do. I mean, it's a discomfort. Some can look at it as disgrace. You can't ask some people to do it, but he did it. It was a symbolic, gesture to draw their attention to a very crucial, a cornerstone aspect of leadership: the cross that needs to be carried. The cross that needs to be carried. And, he said in Luke 14:27-28, where he made that statement again, then he followed. He said, "Whoever wants to build a tower and will not first sit down to count the cost, if he will be able to complete it." It's telling you that, it is important to understand the cross dimension of leadership. Let me very quickly run through, so I close this session today by isolating, identifying, if you like, 9 uh, elements or dimensions of the cross. Okay, so the first is what I call the cross of self denial. You have to deny yourself. Leadership is not about you appropriating privileges. It's not about you, being seeking respect. It's not about you. All right. You are not the center of leadership. Your people represent. It's about your people. It's a call to transform the lives of your people. Your people must take center stage, and you must fall in the background. You must not call attention to yourself. You must not seek to exploit your people in order to project yourself. That's not what leadership entails. The cross of self denial. Why is it a cross? It's not something that you and I will ordinarily do. The average person is self centered. He has to be trained, all right, to put others first, which is what leadership requires. There's the cross of responsibility. There's a cross. He said, "Carry your cross, carry his cross." I'm carrying mine. You must carry yours. There is a cup that you must be ready to drink as a leader. It can't be renegotiated. It can't be averted. It's going to come. It comes with the territory, and you had better be ready for it. If you are not ready for it, you will fall like a pack of cards. You will be ridiculed as a leader. You will fail. There is the cross of responsibility. It says, "I have power to lay my life down. I have power to carry it again." The cross of responsibility. There's the cross of sacrifice. All of us are quick to eat fruits today. We love them. But someone paid a price. Something paid a price. The farmer originally had to let go of the seed in his hands. If he was holding on to the seed, he would never eat fruit. So there's a sacrifice there to let go of the seed, such valuable asset. But in your hands, that asset is only potentially viable. In order for you to prove the viability of a seed, you have to let it go completely, not half, not partially, completely. When you look at the seed, that fruit you are holding, which now has plenty of seeds inside, started out as a seed. The seed had to be put in the ground and buried completely. That's not a comfortable experience for the seed to be completely buried in the ground where there is heat, where there are all manner of chemicals, and it dies, all right, in order for its full potential to become reality. Huge sacrifice, huge sacrifice is involved. But we're excited at the fruit. We're excited at the fact that there are plenty of seeds. But we often forget that a price was paid, a cross was carried by the farmer, by the seed itself, in order to get us there. The cross of sacrifice. To lay your life down for your people is sacrifice. To sell your possessions and distribute to the poor is sacrifice. It's sacrifice. To take responsibility for what others have done, seeking their safety and preservation, and offering yourself to take the heat is sacrifice. And for you to know that you need to build capacity, that man could not bring himself to that point where he was willing to sacrifice what he had just for the poor, to feel comfortable or to be fed, or for the lives of the poor people to be transformed. The cross of service. That's what Jesus was telling the people when he washed their feet. He said, look, see what I have done. Whoever wants to be the greatest among you, because that's what you want. I mean, ordinarily, that's what the average person wants once you're in a leadership position. He said, but the way to get there is not the way that you are following. The way to get there is the way of service. He said, you have to serve. You have to serve one another. You have to serve. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. And it's a cross. And it's a cross because it's not convenient. It's a cross. It's not comfortable. It can be demeaning. There is the cross of love. No greater love can a man show to his friend than to lay down his life for his friend. Love is a cross. It's burdensome. There's something to give. There's something to trade off. And some can carry it. Because when you read the description of love in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 7, you see what it says. Among others, all those things that it says are not easy for the average person to bear without you building the capacity to do so. There's the cross of discomfort. A lot of discomfort. A lot of discomfort. You must be ready for it. You want to lead. You want to lead well. You want to lead as it should be done. Not playing games as a leader, ready to carry the cross of discomfort. The Son of Man, the leader, has nowhere to lay his head. He often has to make do. He often has to, find alternatives. He often has to consider the people before he considers himself. The cross of discomfort, the cross of shame. All right. I mean, I remember, where the Bible talks about the fact that Jesus despised the shame. All right. Endured the cross. who for the joy that was set before him. So he understood that there's something more ahead. There's something better ahead. But if I were looking at the disgrace, the reproach, the discomfort, all right, the shame of being hung as a leader, as one who had been called a man with great wisdom, a man who has astonished people, a man who have healed, a man who has solved everybody's problem. And look at now, this man is hanging virtually naked, being disgraced on the cross. People don't understand why. The cross of shame, he had to carry it. It was part of what he saw when he said, "Can this cup not pass?" He said, but I understand. I understand. I understand. The cross of rejection. There will be people who will reject you as a leader. Not everybody would embrace you. In fact, before some people embrace you, before they appreciate what you have to offer them, they would have rejected you first. They would have held you, viewed you with disdain and disapproval. There will be people who would say, like they said to Jesus, how can a man say this? Who is this man? Who does he think he is? This is a hard saying. Who can bear it? And the guys walked away. They rejected him. He said he came to his own, and his own didn't even recognize him. He was rejected. Not everybody would accept you as a leader. Not everybody would even appreciate all the sacrifice and service and responsibility. No. There are people today who still don't appreciate that. All the stuff of going to the cross and all that. The cross of rejection. Are you prepared for it as a leader? Because it comes with the territory. You can say you don't mind, but let me, as I've said repeatedly, prepare your mind. That is going to come. And don't be surprised that you may end up being very vulnerable. And it will be a reflection of the fact that you haven't built capacity ahead of it. That's why when people talk about be vulnerable, within the context of leadership, I feel that against the background of the fact that leadership entails carrying the cross, that they are making the leader feel comfortable in his vulnerability. But you can't feel comfortable in your vulnerability, because when it shows up, you fall like a pack of cards. And nobody wants to follow a weak leader. Nobody. The truth is that while there are those who saw Jesus as being weak, hanging on the cross, later they came to realize that this was somebody in his own class. The people who were following him, on the other hand, never saw him in that fashion. They saw him differently. They respected him the more. All right? The dynamics of the cross. Okay, so finally, there is the cross of reprioritization. All right, part of self-denial is changing your priorities. Changing your priorities. Putting the people first and doing everything that needs to demonstrate that they're first. And you not being first. You not even being in the equation. You understanding that the way that you profit from your leadership assignment is by ensuring that you deliver value into the lives of your people. Because when you do that, one is the greatest source of fulfillment. Two, there are benefits that come with it. There are benefits that come with it. So there you have it. 9 dimensions of the cross of leadership. That's what we'll be talking about today. The cross of leadership. All right. You want to do leadership right. Understand that there is the cross that you must be willing to carry. Your cross. Incidentally, not the cross of the people, but your cross has to do with taking responsibility for the people, putting yourself out there in order to shield them, to protect them, to ensure that the transformation that they are looking up to by following you is duly delivered. All right. Part of carrying that cross is to make it clear to your people that they must be ready to carry their own cross. Because as you are carrying your cross as a leader, they will be carrying their cross as followers. And next week, I'll be talking about the cross of following. The cross of following. So, focus would be on those who are following you, if you are following, and everyone is following a leader. And if you're following a leader, there is the cross of following. There is the cross of following. And I think that's something that many people need to understand today because all too often, it's easy to focus on the leader, to shred the leader into pieces, to see what the leader is not doing well, what the leader is doing wrong, never to appreciate the cross that the leader is carrying, the struggles of the leader, all right, all in a bid to do leadership right. And those who are complaining, they fail to understand that they have responsibilities as well, that they have crosses that they need to carry as well. And in many cases, they are not even carrying those crosses. They are failing, all right, with regard to the cross of following. There is the cross of following. Join me next week. Um, we'll go through that so that you have a balanced view as well. Because leadership is a relationship between the leader and the follower. And interestingly, everyone has responsibilities, they all have, they individually have, or respectively have their obligations. Okay. And both have crosses that they must carry. The leader must help the follower to appreciate the cross of following and to help them build the capacity to carry that cross. After those sessions, sometime I would speak to the issue of how to build the capacity to carry the cross of leadership and how to build the capacity to carry the cross of following. That's Leadership in 30 Minutes today, and we have been speaking on the subject, the cross of leadership. I hope that you have enjoyed being a part of this today. So thank you for joining me. If there are any other ways, there are other ways. If you need help to develop your abilities, leadership abilities, your capacity, your competence, feel free to reach out. Check out, either put your email in the link, in the comment area, or check out my email in the description. You can send me an email. You can even book a call with me. And, if you need coaching, if you need mentoring, feel free to reach out. You have some of the programs that we offer that will help you to address some of the things that we have been talking about today in the description. Check them out. You have the Authentic Leadership Academy. Check out that community. Join that community. It's a community that we're building up, to develop authentic leadership on the go. So you have the privilege to interact with other people, to hear from me on a more consistent basis, to hear from other guests that will be bringing, to be a part of other initiatives, to even bring your own challenges, and expose it to members of the community, so that you can pick their brains, so that you can get the necessary counsel, that often makes the difference when the chips are down. You have the Smart Leader program, is a 30-day program that will significantly, you need a significant boost. All right, you don't have too much time. You need to significantly transform your leadership ability or capacity. uh, I guarantee you, just get in there. 30 days, you start at your own time. If you register today, you start getting your videos. It's offline. There are assignments at the end of every video. I will be responding to you. All right. As you submit the assignments, I'll send you a personal video commenting on your assignment, giving you additional tips. You do that over 30 days. By the time you are done in 30 days, uh, you would emerge a different kind of leader. You must have seen the Greater Than Solomon, on the screen there. That's a mastermind. It's a program also that I run, and you can run it as a personal one-on-one coaching or as part of a group. And what does he say? He said there's a greater than Solomon. Solomon is said to be the wisest man and all that. But Jesus came and introduced himself. He said, a greater than Solomon is here. And what we see is that Jesus didn't fall into the errors that Solomon fell into. Solomon, yes, so many great things, wisdom and all of that. But all of that did not excuse him, all right, from falling, especially in his later days. You don't want to start well and finish bad. You want to start well and finish strong. The only one who did that is Jesus. So, what makes him the greater than Solomon? Isn't that something that you should be interested in? Because if you know it, you empower yourself such that you insulate yourself from failure as a leader. That's one of the greatest things about the concept of a greater than Solomon. You want to learn, what it entails. You want to operate at that level. Reach out. It's an elaborate program, and um, you are sure to encounter value like never before. There is the parables for profit programs, or profit from parables programs. There are two of them, don't get confused, but you can see videos on my channel as well for the parables for profit. What that does is that it shows you, it exposes you to how parables offer opportunities for you to profit in life. And then the profit from parables, shows you how to take advantage of the parables, for profiting in life. So you have different resources. Go ahead, avail yourself. If this has been a blessing to you, if you have gained anything here today, imagine what you stand to gain in those various programs. Well, so that's the program today. Once again, thank you very much for joining. I look forward to seeing you on Monday, Leadership Monday, on, you know, uh, comes to you a nugget, our weekly nugget for doing leadership right will be delivered there. And then, of course, on Thursday again, we'll come back, Leadership in 30 minutes, and we'll examine the cross of following. Thank you for joining me today. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye bye.